I never thought I'd end up in this position. But once it began, there was no turning back. It was a warm summer night in Chicago, and I was alone in my small, dimly lit apartment. My daughter, Sarah, was staying with her friend for the weekend, and I had the place to myself, or at least that's what I thought. The quiet hum of the city outside my window blended with the soft ticking of the clock, filling the empty spaces around me. The living room was calm, bathed in the muted glow of the streetlights filtering through the blinds. It was just past midnight, and the quiet of the apartment settled around me, with only the faint hum of the refrigerator breaking the silence. I sat on the worn leather couch, absent-mindedly flipping through a magazine, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. My thoughts drifted, replaying moments of the evening, and I couldn't shake this lingering feeling of anticipation. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, almost mocking me as the minutes dragged on. There was an unusual stillness in the air, one that felt too heavy, too charged, like something was about to happen. My pulse quickened, though I couldn't explain why. Just as I began to relax, there was a quiet creak from down the hallway, barely noticeable, but enough to jolt me out of my thoughts. I tensed, feeling my heartbeat quicken as I glanced toward the darkened hallway, half expecting to see nothing. But there was a shadow, a faint, lingering shape, moving closer. I tried to focus on the magazine in my lap, but my hands betrayed me, gripping the edges tighter than I realized. A shiver crept up my spine as I sensed a shift in the air, that unspoken tension filling the space. I kept my eyes forward, pretending to be engrossed in the pages, yet every fiber of me was alert, aware of each step that drew nearer. My mind was screaming at me to stand up, to walk away, to close the door on this before I could spiral further out of control. But I couldn't move. I could still feel the heat of his gaze, the way his presence lingered in the room, thickening the air around us. My pulse quickened, and a mix of guilt and something else, something far more dangerous, settled deep within me. What am I doing? I asked myself, feeling my resolve weaken with each passing second. I knew this wasn't right, that I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from. And yet, there was a pull I couldn't deny, an invisible thread that kept me rooted in place, refusing to let go. The room felt like it was closing in on me, the walls pressing in as if they knew the weight of the decision I was about to make. My breath was shallow, my hands trembling as I stood there, caught between two worlds. I could feel my heart racing, pounding in my chest like a drumbeat, urging me forward, or was it pulling me back? He took a step closer, his breath warm against my ear, and for a moment, everything else faded. My thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind, and all I could focus on was the weight of his presence, his closeness, the heat of his touch that seemed to burn me from the inside out. I knew what this would mean. One wrong choice, I thought, and everything would change. Forever. A voice inside screamed at me to walk away, to stop this madness before it was too late. But then, another part of me, the part I didn't want to admit was there, urged me to give in, to let go. What if I could just be free? I closed my eyes, fighting the swirl of emotions inside. My body was screaming for more, but my mind was still holding on to some shred of decency. "This is wrong," I whispered to myself. But as my hands reached for him, that voice seemed to grow fainter, almost drowned out by the sound of my heart in my ears. I was teetering on the edge, the choice hanging before me like a fragile thread. One step forward could undo everything. What if I can't come back from this? I asked myself, but the question no longer seemed to matter. And then, as if by instinct, I reached out. The world held its breath. As the moment passed, I stood there, frozen, my body still tingling from the contact. The room seemed to shrink even more, the air thick with an unspoken truth. My thoughts were a jumbled mess, like a puzzle I couldn't quite put together. The weight of what had just happened settled heavily on my shoulders, but even through the guilt, I couldn't ignore the small part of me that was satisfied. I had crossed a line I never thought I'd cross. The question that had been eating at me before, what now, still lingered. What did this mean? Was this just a momentary lapse? Or had I set something in motion that couldn't be undone? I looked at him, his eyes searching mine, both of us unsure of what this meant for the future. The quiet hum of the house filled the space between us, but no words were spoken. What could we say? Could we take it back? I stepped back, my breath shaky, the gravity of the moment sinking in. I told myself I wouldn't go any further, that I would pull away and never let it happen again. But deep down, a part of me wasn't sure I could. "I'll never do it again," I whispered, more to myself than to him. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew the truth. I was lying. This was only the beginning. And the worst part was, I could already feel the pull again. Would I resist next time? I didn't know. But I was starting to think that this wasn't the last time.